Nowadays, unlockables are an essential part of Brawl Stars, and we couldn't imagine a world without them, or even one without the power they have currently. If we see teammates without gadgets or star powers, or nowadays, hypercharges, we already assume that we are at a disadvantage, due to the sheer advantage that these unlockables give. But it's not just an equal advantage to every brawler, however, with some brawlers having absolutely useless unlockables, while others have unlockables that are necessary for the brawler to be useful. And the latter is the focus of the video, as I'll be taking a look at some examples of this and how it affects the brawler, and by the end of the video, I'll discuss my thoughts on it as a whole, as well as how it could be potentially fixed or at least stopped. Anyway, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on the video. Also, make sure to join our Discord server to have more fun with our gauntlet feature, or find other people to talk and play with. With that out of the way, let's get into the video. To preface this video, let's first talk about each unlockable and its basics. First of all, there are gadgets. Gadgets are unlocked at level 7 and cost 1000 coins each, and each brawler has 2 of them, but can only use 1 in a game. They're all limited use abilities, only being able to use 3 times per game, and with 4 with the gadget gear equipped. They are meant to be powerful, but not too powerful abilities that you only use in times of need, due to the limited nature of them. Most of these abilities are not powerful enough to be considered equal to a super, but are powerful enough to warrant a limited amount of uses. A perfect example of a balanced gadget that is in line with the purpose of a gadget and isn't too broken is Jean's lamp blowout. It helps him cover a weakness against aggro brawlers, but doesn't completely remove the weakness to aggro brawlers, as you have to be smart with its uses as they are numbered. Now let's talk about star powers. Star powers are unlocked at level 9 and cost 2000 coins each, and each brawler has 2 of them, but can only use 1 in a game. Unlike gadgets, these don't have a limited use, and are a permanent upgrade to the brawler for the duration of a match. These are meant to be noticeably upgrading the brawler in some way, and either accentuate their strengths, or give them a new aspect that isn't too out of reach with their design. A perfect example of a star power that is in line with its purpose is Buzz Eye Sharp Star Power. It isn't powerful enough to be the pick in every single game, but it's still a noticeable and useful upgrade to one of Buzz's abilities, which is his supercharge radius. Up next are gears. Your first gear slot is unlocked at level 8, and your second gear slot is unlocked at level 10. The costs vary based on the rarity. A super rare gear is 1000, an epic gear is 1500, and a mythic gear is 2000. Gears are meant to be an extra addition to the brawler's kit, something that completes it rather than adds something new, making it a small but noticeable change. The super rare gears fulfill this purpose. Epic gears, however, are a bit better and offer a better upgrade in exchange for more coins. Mythic gears, however, are brawler specific and basically are mini star powers, in that they offer an upgrade to one of the brawler's mechanics, though obviously much less than star power. The final unlockable I'm going to go over is the latest and most controversial, the hypercharge. Hypercharges are unlocked at power level 11 and cost 5000 coins to buy. Hypercharges were meant to basically be gadgets on steroids, as they were only available on average 2 to 3 times per game, but were game changers when they were used, being able to win the game for a team if used correctly. A good example of a hypercharge that isn't too powerful but still fulfills its purpose is Cordelius' hypercharge, which turns his assassination skills up to the next notch, slowing down enemies when taking them to the Shadow Realm, turning an already powerful super to a basically free kill. It isn't a full team wipe, but if used correctly, it can change the tide of the game due to the basically free kill it gives. Now that I've gone over all of the permanent unlockables in Brawl Stars, I'm going to start talking about some brawlers that rely way too heavily on one or more unlockables, and discuss what the unlockable is, how it affects the brawler, why it's so needed by the brawler, and what would happen if it were removed. First off, let's talk about one of the most famous examples of a brawler relying on an extremely broken unlockable, Dynamike. Hit it or hate it, you can't argue Satchel Charge has consistently been one of the best gadgets in the game for a very long time. Satchel Charge allows Dyna's next attack to stun enemies for a stunning 1.5 seconds. But anyway, stuns are an inherently broken ability, and giving one to a thrower is especially powerful, but why? Well, the main drawback of stunning a brawler for non-throwers is that the teammates can easily come and help protect their teammate from getting killed, forcing you to retreat, turning what should have been a kill into your death. But with the stun from a thrower, the teammates in most scenarios can't save you and your opponent will get a free kill. With what I've said earlier about the unlockables, you can understand why a free kill from merely a gadget is extremely broken. and is on par or at least close to that of hypercharge. However, unlike some of the brawlers I'm going to talk about after this, Dynamike isn't completely unusable without the gadget. He can still perform his attack well and create potent threats without the gadget, but there are just so many better throwers than him. Essentially, he can survive without the gadget, but he can't thrive, becoming a much weaker brawler. Let's talk about the next brawler, but this time it's a brawler that relies on a star power instead of a gadget. Let's talk about Surge and his Serve Ice Cold star power. This star power allows Surge to keep his stage 2 even if he dies, or if a goal is scored in Brawl Ball, or if a round is finished in Knockout. This super is literally essential for Surge in 3v3 modes. Yes, it's basically useless in Solo Showdown, but come on, who willingly plays Solo Showdown and retains brain cells? But anyway, Surge's entire early gameplay is based around having teammates help him pinch brawlers, and he himself hiding around walls and catching enemies by surprise in order to try and get his first super. Without his stage 2 upgrade, Surge is an F tier brawler and is basically deadweight. The speed boost that the stage 2 gives is extremely useful for him, and allows him to be able to actually move up the map, and be able to actually dodge up the enemies, and makes it so much easier for him to get up to the next stages. The other star power basically gives a useless ability that rarely gives value, and is obviously nowhere near the usefulness as Serve Ice Cold, leading it to only see real usage in Solo Showdown. Overall, without the Serve Ice Cold star power, Surge becomes a very bad brawler, as he is forced to return to stage 1 of his super every time he dies. This can be especially frustrating if you manage to get all the way up to stage 4 with Surge before dying, as you have to work all your way back up, which is definitely not an easy or quick process when you have to start back at stage 1. Next up, let's talk about a brawler that relies heavily on their hypercharge. Let's talk about Colette and her hypercharge. Colette's hypercharge sees her spirit follow her super, which both dashes and damages enemies in the same direction as the super, dealing 1000 damage to an enemy brawler, but 5000 damage to special targets, such as the heist save. This hypercharge is honestly one of the best in the game. It allows Colette to fulfill her damage dealer role and deal a whole lot of damage. It already helps Colette basically kill most brawlers with it, but the real value of it is not using it against brawlers, but using it on the heist save. If used on the heist save, Colette's hypercharge can deal absolutely ridiculous damage, and is a game changer in many heist games due to the sheer amount of damage the hypercharge can do. Without it, however, Colette is no longer a good brawler at all. She's already barely picked on modes that aren't heist, and there are already better picks for tank counters than her on those modes even with her hypercharge, so just imagine how unpicked she would be without it. And without her hypercharge, Colette will basically lose all play in heist, as her damage would be severely reduced, and there definitely would be better options for her for massive safe damage. Let's talk about a double whammy this time, a brawler who relies heavily on both a gadget and a star power, Sam. Sam's gadget, Magnetic Field, sees him pull enemies with a 2.33 tile radius into his Knuckle Busters. This gadget is honestly one of the main reasons you could possibly make an argument of Sam being an assassin over being a tank. It allows Sam to actually make good use of his super, and most importantly, keeps enemies near him while he doesn't have his super. If used correctly, this gadget can basically wipe out any brawler that is low in health or any squishy brawler, turning Sam into a dangerous threat if you get within his sights and you are one of the things I just mentioned. Sam's Hardy Recovery star power lets him heal for 20% of his missing health every time Sam picks up his Knuckle Busters from the ground. This star power allows Sam to quickly recover from being at extremely low health and return to the fight. The extra healing can also be the difference between life and death in a 1v1 situation. Overall, without this gadget and star power, Sam turns into a very mediocre or even F tier brawler. His main assassination tool is gone, and he now has trouble in being able to actually catch opposing brawlers without getting killed by the opponent's teammates. He will also lose out on a lot of important healing that his star power would have given him, which leads to Sam being out of the fight in order to heal for much longer, and also losing 1v1 interactions that he could have won otherwise. To add insult to injury, Sam's other star power and gadget are easily F tier. His other gadget, Pulse Repellent, is in most cases counterintuitive, as it pushes away enemies rather than pulling them in, being overly defensive when Sam doesn't really need a defensive gadget. His other star power, Remote Recharge, basically sees no value as the radius around his Knuckle Busters that charges super back up is so tiny, people will rarely go into it, therefore leaving Sam to be completely useless without his super, waiting for people to go into the radius of the Knuckle Buster. Now, let's go over one of the more recent brawlers, and the second to last brawler I'm going to cover today. Draco relies quite heavily on his gadget Last Stand, which allows him to stay alive for 2 seconds with an invulnerable shield at 1 health, when he should have died. Just by the description, you can see why this is completely broken. This is basically a rebirth on steroids, as this gadget doesn't prevent Draco from still attacking. This gadget basically allows Draco to rush in blindly and still survive and get a super maybe, and even get kills when he should have died. It also allows him to win a lot more 1v1 interactions due to the inherently broken ability of being able to stay both alive at 1 health and invulnerable, giving him a huge advantage over the other brawler he's fighting with. Used in combination with his shredding star power, Last Stand is even more useful. Shredding allows Draco to recover 2750 health whenever he uses his super. This, when used alongside of his gadget, allows Draco to stay alive when he should have died, and then have an extra 2750 health and his powerful dragon form, being able to turn what should have been a losing interaction into a winning one. Without this gadget and star power, Draco would be much more passive and weak. He would no longer be able to attack as recklessly in order to get his super, or win 1v1 interactions as often, and it would take him a long time to be able to get his super. And even when he gets it, he could no longer get as much value out of it, and die quickly since he isn't getting a health boost from the star power. Overall, the loss of the gadget and star power would give Draco basically no survivability and make him arguably the worst tank, being forced to play extremely passively in exchange for basically no reward. Finally, let's talk about arguably the most egregious example of relying too heavily on an unlockable, and in this case, a gadget, Lily. Lily's Vanish gadget allows her to vanish to the Shadow Realm for 3 seconds, with only her allies being able to see the general direction of where she has gone. The gadget's description sounds mundane, but this makes Lily meta basically by itself. Lily's approach tools are extremely limited, as her super is her best approach tool, but it takes being around enemies within a 6-tile radius to be able to charge it, which any sane enemy won't do if they can't help it. Even on bushy maps where Lily could get close to enemies, her DPS isn't even that great compared to other brawlers who thrive in those bushy maps, so she will often lose those interactions. However, with her gadget, all of this changes. She can become usable on traditionally not good maps for her, like open maps, because she can use her Vanish gadget to sneak onto enemy lines and get valuable kills, while also obtaining better positioning to continue getting kills for the rest of the game. It also helps with her survivability, if she's about to die or in a very tough situation, like facing a high DPS brawler like a Shelly with super, she can use her Vanish gadget and survive, or even force the enemy to make a mistake and waste a valuable super, gadget, or hypercharge. All in all, this gadget was perfect for Lily in making her good, but a little too perfect as she became overly reliant on it to actually make an impact on the game. At the end of the day, unlockables like these are just ruining the designs of these brawlers. Brawlers shouldn't have to be good only because of an unlockable they have, as they should be able to not put up as good of a fight, sure, but still put up a fight even without the specific unlockable. It shows either an inherent weakness in the brawler's design, or it shows a misdesign in the unlockables for them to be so powerful as to make the brawler rely on them. And this is becoming even more prevalent with newer brawlers like Lily and Draco, as I've mentioned, but also Kenji's health gadget and steel star power, Melody's shield gadget, Larry's health gadget, and so on. I suppose you could call it the somewhat worrying trend in Brawl Stars, but I digress. So how does Brawl Stars fix this? Well, first, they have to deal with the designs. They can't make the brawlers too weak in an area that they later cover in the unlockable. In the case of Lily, one of the reasons her gadget is so powerful is that it allows her to approach other brawlers easily, so they could somewhat fix it by giving her a more reliable way to approach brawlers within her base kit. Another way they could fix the over-reliance of these gadgets and star powers is by adding the gadget set star power into the base kit. One example of this could be for Surge, as his counterpart Clancy responds with his full tokens, while Surge is forced to return back to stage 1 every time he respawns. Of course, he should probably receive a nerf to one of the aspects of his kit, alongside of it, to balance out the indirect buff he's getting. The final way Brawl Stars could fix this over-reliance is by a nerf to the unlockable while buffing other aspects of the brawler. This would balance them out, making the unlockable less powerful while making the brawler itself better. Overall, keep in mind these are merely suggestions and could/could not work perfectly. If you have your own suggestions, feel free to put them in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching. Watch this video, or this playlist, or join the Discord server.